and these will represent our forces. So this will be 2 companies. We have cavalry. We have artillery pieces. What comes next? Rules. We need rules. Hey Wargamers! Welcome back. Purple Druid presents Wargame Culture, and today we are in the final stretch of the Imaginations campaign. We are going to start the mini campaign very, very soon. We already have all of the tools we need to put this together, and now we're just going to play a couple of battles in order to determine which rules we're going to use. So, to begin with, you need a strategic map. This is one that I made with markers and watercolors. This represents the Hyde River Valley, and we're going to have a little war here. We're going to have 3 battles using 3 different rule sets. The armies that we move around on this map will be represented by counters, the red and the blue. They'll get these little blocks. They are labeled with A, B, C, D, E. We have smaller blocks to use for couriers or messengers or scouts. And these will be moved around the board based on where they're located, where the forces are located, where the messengers are moving about. And we'll move these around according to the campaign rules that we've put together. So we've got our map, we've got our counters. What else do we need? We need some dice. For this particular game, I believe I'm just going to need 6s and 10s. So we're going to use some dice. We also need some event cards. And I've put together a small deck of event cards. These are taken from Henry Hyde's Wargaming Campaigns. They're a free download when you buy the book. And so we have a bunch of events that will get drawn on a turn-by-turn basis. We also need some playing cards. Wonder if I can do this in a cool way. Nope. Playing cards. We're going to use these for different things. We've already used them to design the map, and we'll be using these for things like the scouting game and determining the success of courier missions and messengers, etc. What else do we need? Oh, we need forces. So when we play our actual game on the tactical level on a table, we're going to be using these little risk pieces that I put together. I've set them up in companies. Each stand has 6 minis. And I'm going to hold these up closer to the camera so you can see them. And these will represent our forces. So this will be 2 companies, 4 companies, or 5 companies will make a regiment, etc. So we have infantry. We have cavalry. We have artillery pieces. I've even based some up on smaller bases, and these will represent skirmishers. So we have an array of forces. I have them in red pieces and in blue. They should be easy to see on the game board when we start playing. What comes next? Rules. We need rules. First of all, we need some strategic rules. Campaign rules. And I've compiled these campaign rules from a couple different sources. Primarily, Henry Hyde's Wargaming Campaigns as inspired by the Martin Stott 1744 book. So we'll go over these real quick. First of all, one campaign turn is 1 week. The strategic map hex, that's these. These are 15 miles. That represents 1 day's travel by an infantry unit, which we're getting from Tony Bath. Movement on the strategic map will be simultaneous, and whenever 2 units move during their turn, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, move into the same hex, there will be an encounter. And when there's an encounter, there may be a battle, there may not. It all depends on what the dice decide. So we have our movement points based on the unit type and the terrain type. We have the lowlands here, we have the highlands here, the brown is hills, the gray is mountains. We're not going to be able to travel in the mountains unless you go on a pass like that. And there will be 1 forced march allowed every 5 turns. Each city, that's the big ones here marked on the map, they will have boats. The capital, there's a capital here of this province and a capital here of this province. They'll have 8. The other cities will have 4. Each boat can carry 1 stand. And you can use boats to ferry troops across a river if there's not a bridge. We have some bridges marked on here. And there's also a ford right there. Supplies. Each stand will require 1 wagon model. And so for each of the stands that we have on the tactical map, we'll have wagons to support them in terms of food and supplies. You can make a pontoon bridge. You can bring one of those along. That's going to take 2 wagon models. You also need an additional wagon model for every 2 stands of artillery. So 2 stands of artillery will have 3 wagon models. Each force must have an unobstructed path to a friendly or captured settlement in order to maintain their supplies. So what that will mean is this is the red side of the board, and if I have troops here, there is an unbroken path back to one of their cities. However, if the blue forces sail down the river and disembark here, they can cut off their supplies, and they'll have a random amount of time, probably 1 or 2 turns, before they start running out of supplies and start being affected, their combat and morale. If a settlement is captured, we are going to roll a d6 for the number of days until a messenger can escape to warn the nearest forces. So for instance, I've got a small settlement here. If I have a blue army here on the road and red forces take that settlement, we'll roll a d6, and it will be 4 days before a messenger can leave that city. Now, a week is a turn, and we're using days because sometimes days will matter. If this unit is sending out a messenger, but they start their turn on Monday, but they decide that for whatever reason the messenger doesn't leave until Wednesday, but they won't find out about this city being captured until Thursday. So those are some considerations that we'll be taking. Next off, casualties. After a battle, we will roll a d8 for each figure lost. Remember, each stand has 6 figures. So as casualties mount, we'll use some sort of marker. I have some markers downstairs, but say this one loses 4 figures and they've only got 2 left. We will roll a d8 for each of those 4 figures. On a 1 to 4, they've been scattered or lightly wounded and can resume battle the next day. On a 5 or a 6, they are wounded and need to be sent to a field hospital. which means you'll need to send one of your wagons. And on a 7 or 8, they are dead or fatally wounded or permanently disabled, in which case they're simply lost for the purposes of the campaign. If the commander has not established a field hospital, the wagons of wounded will go to the nearest friendly settlement. And again, we'll use these, we have these little markers, we'll use those for the wagons, moving them towards a friendly settlement for the wounded. And then we'll keep track in our log regarding how long it takes them to return. The wounded will be in a field hospital. That'll be on a 5 or 6 on the D8. If they roll a 5, they'll be out for 1 week. If they roll a 6, they'll be out for 2 weeks. So we're going to test out and see how that goes. So those are the campaign rules that we're going to use. The first game, we're going to use Arthur Taylor's rules as pulled out of this book, Rules for Wargaming, part of the History of Wargaming project, edited by John Curry. These rules for the tactical game, 1 bound is 2.5 minutes. We'll roll for weather. Orders are supposed to be written, so we'll be jotting those down on cards and placing them prior to each turn. We might use the solo rules and give each unit 3 different options and then roll for those as for the commander, which one he chooses. So we'll work that out as we get to it. The scale on the table is going to be 1 millimeter equals 1 yard. The sequence of play, move, and then fire, and then close combat. Each unit, actually each stand, I apologize, will have a morale score. And the morale, Arthur Taylor's morale, we're going to go ahead and use Arthur Taylor's morale system for the whole campaign because I like it a lot. Each unit has a morale value based on an average of the following 4 scores: quality, confidence, physical condition, and mental condition. So they'll get a score of 0 to 5 for quality. Their confidence will be matched to their general's leadership or command competency rating, which will be 1 to 6. Their physical capacity, 2 to 5. Their mental capacity, 0 to 5. And then we have various modifiers depending on weather and commanding officers, etc. So those are the rules we're going to use for the first game. The second game, we're going to play with Henry Hyde's Shot, Steel, and Stone. And then the third game, we're going to use Michael Smith's Tabletop Battles grid game. So those are the tactical rules that we'll be using for each of these games in the mini campaign to determine which will work best for our Imaginations game. Now, we also have some other things, various resources that have been used. First of all, we're going to use 1 hour Wargames to lay out the scenarios. So the 3 scenarios, we're going to just pull them out of here to determine force composition randomly, and then be able to have a relatively small battle so that we can get to know the rules. We're also going to use the Solo Wargaming Guide, the Solo Campaign Mobilization Rules. This is where they have the idea of choosing 3 plans, and those plans that we'll choose for each campaign turn will be, 1 will be defensive, 1 will be measured or perhaps diplomatic, and then the third will be aggressive, and we'll roll a die to see which one comes up. We're also going to use the rules out of here for the commander competency rating, where 1 is inept and 6 is superb. We'll use the reaction tables from page 13. We're also going to use the messenger rules from Tony Bath, how to set up a Wargames campaign. From this book on page 87, he has a special pack of cards, and basically it's just one, all of the clubs, say. And what you'll do is you draw a card for each courier when they begin their run to wherever they're going. And depending on the card you draw, there may or may not be events that happen to them. We are also going to do a scouting mini game prior to each game, to each tactical game. And I've worked out a cool way to do that. I'll rephrase that. I've worked out what I think is a cool way to do that using cards, and I'll give a demonstration of that in another video. From Wargaming Campaigns, we're going to use the leadership characteristics on page 271. Initiative, intelligence, courage, charisma, strength, and health. In addition to the CCR, command competency rating, those will have the effect on various battles. If things come up or there's a question or I don't know what I should do, I have multiple choices, I'll roll on those, and that will give us the results. So we can operate in a fog of war, even in a solo game. The command competency rating is going to be determined by a formula: intelligence plus initiative plus charisma divided by 48. And I did make a spreadsheet for this, so that made things very, very easy. It randomly generated all of the characteristics for all of the officers. I have 100 of them, so there's more than enough. On page 282, borrowed from Charles Grant, we have national characteristics regarding the ruling regime, the opposition, and their national posture. This will give us some more direction and create more fog of war between the two sets of forces. Now, the forces will be in red for Serenagor. The Empire of Serenagor is down here in this portion of the map, and then the Machian Union is here in the blue, in the northwest portion of the map. We are going to also use the Solo Wargaming Guide to lay out the classes of settlements. So we have the large cities, and then we have the smaller ones marked out with the little black dots. The ace that you see here, this particular city would be able to provide up to 5 regiments. A king, as you can see here and here, that is a class A also, which would provide 4 regiments. The queen cities are class B, and they'll provide 2 to 3 regiments. A jack city will provide 1 to 2 regiments. And then we have a variety of C, D, and E class settlements for these little black dots, and they'll provide anywhere from 2 to 4 companies. Now, a company is going to count as 1 stand, which will be 150 men, and thus 1 figure will equal 25 men for terms of casualties. I have made a list of all the settlements, both in the Empire of Serenagor and the Machian Union, so I know what settlement class they are, how many companies of troops they have, and their names. These are all being put onto a smaller scale map that I'm going to make copies of. It's upside down. There we go. I'll make copies of this, and that way it'll be easier to do some little drawings and things like that. We've named all the features, geographic features. I'm not going to write them on the big map because I'd like to be able to use this big map over and over again for different campaign ideas. And you know what? I think that's it. I think that's all we needed. Can you believe that? 2 years of effort putting this together, and we can summarize it all in less than 30 minutes. So all of this information is going to be typed up and made into a booklet that will be available at wargameculture.substack.com. So please be sure and pop over there and subscribe so you don't miss it. And the various battles will be starting soon. As always, questions or comments, please type them in the little box below. And please hit like and subscribe It will help the channel grow and spread the word to your friends and neighbors who are interested in wargaming campaigns. Thanks again for watching. Purple Druid signing off. Keep on gaming.